Hi everyone, my name is Desiree and my group is discussing military and war trauma. I will be discussing this as if I were speaking to an adult client. So military and war trauma, whenever I think of that, the first thing that comes to mind is PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder. There are a bunch of different things, however, that can be involved with military and war trauma. So, the topics that I'm going to cover are physical, emotional, psychological, and social, and how each of those are affected by the trauma. So, for physical, um, many times if a soldier or a veteran or whoever, hits an IED or gets into a firefight with the enemy or, whatever the case may be, they might have some sort of physical trauma, physical damage to their body, such as an amputated limb. They might have, different scars from that after the fact. They might have chemical burns. So that physical trauma is always going to be there, is always going to be a reminder to not only them, but to the people around them as well. Another thing that can physically impact someone is a TBI, which is a traumatic brain injury. And while that might not be something that you can visually see, a TBI can affect the chemicals in someone's brain. So, and that will in turn affect their emotions and social cues and all kinds of different stuff. So, if someone, hits their head really hard during like an explosion or something like that, that can also physically impact them. For emotional, how a veteran or someone, in the military or in a war setting might be feeling, that's when I try to focus on PTSD. So they might be feeling dissociative. They might be feeling avoidant of certain things, like when they come back home, such as I know people who can't listen to fireworks because it reminds them of like gunfire in the distance. They might also lack interest in things that they, used to love to do. Emotional trauma is really, really, really hard to get over or to help, if that makes sense, just because especially for military and war trauma there's so much that goes with it. So they could be opposite. Instead of being, depressed or uninterested, they could be hyper vigilant, which means their brain is just kind of turned on all the time in case something were to ever happen. That way they're prepared. It's kind of that fight or flight thing. They're always prepared to fight. So for psychological, how they think, we could have, again, many different issues that stem from military or war trauma. So, one of the main things that I think of is survivor's guilt. This would occur if someone was in, any kind of situation, a battle, war, even something like an accident at home, like a training exercise where one soldier passed away and the other one survived, and now the surviving person has guilt because their friend died and they're still here. So I think trauma psychologically has a huge impact on them as well. It can cause sleep disturbances. It can again cause disassociation and all different kinds of negative effects like that. One of the more severe symptoms or issues that it can cause is suicidal thoughts or even suicidal actions. And that, could be for many different reasons besides from survivor's guilt. It could be just depression, like they're unable to handle it. They don't have a good support system. Again, the trauma affects your brain and the chemicals in your brain. So those thoughts are never normal. So it's just something that they need help and treatment for, and to realize that they aren't alone. And finally, social factors that could be influenced by military and war trauma. One of the biggest ones, just because I have personally been through it, is uh, for adults, issues with, relationships, maintaining relationships, friendships. It doesn't have to be, an intimate relationship. It's just hard to keep that connection, especially if you're a veteran and you have some kind of relationship with like a civilian, and they might not understand what you're going through. It's very difficult, and it puts a lot of pressure on the other person as well, because they might not understand, but they might want to, and then the the traumatized person doesn't know how to explain it to them, or doesn't want to sound weak, so they are not explaining it to them. And there's just a whole breakdown in communication. So that's one of the big social things I've noticed. And again, some people, don't want to go out. They've lost interest in doing things that they used to love to do, whether it's sports or hanging out with friends or family. They'd rather just stay home because home is where it's safe for them. So hopefully you guys have learned something. I hope to have shed a little bit of light on different types of military and war trauma and how they can affect a veteran, and or as well as the people in their lives. Thanks.